Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. My name is Nick and today guys we're going to be talking about Bitcoin, what's been going on most recently with the price action and what we think is going to happen next. As I get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, hit the like button. I do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all the notifications, and in doing so you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With all that said, done and out of the way, let's go ahead and jump right down into this analysis on Bitcoin. Here we have Bitcoin paired up with USDT on the hourly chart, and Binance is the data source. And as you can see in the last couple of hours, we've seen some pretty interesting volatility. Again, we have these really high wicks. Now, these wicks here are essentially just grabbing liquidity before they actually see reversals in price. So at the point of recording this video, you can see that we're fighting this little area here, and we can see this huge wick. So let's go ahead and zoom in on this area and talk about what is going on. So during the stream this morning, we're kind of talking about maybe just trading sideways in between these two areas. Essentially, what we have down here is the area of demand, and this wick is exactly showing you that. Essentially, this is being an area of buying pressure. Okay, you can think of this as a support level if you want. At the top here, we also have areas of supply. Okay, so we have the demand line at the bottom, and we have the supply coming in at the top, meaning that this is where the sellers are. And you can see that we're just in this ranging market on this hourly chart. This is pretty typical of a weekend move, kind of pretty boring, kind of bouncing around a bit, nothing too crazy. Okay, now if the sellers are up here and the buyers are down here, and we've currently seen a pretty extreme amount of push to the downside only to liquidate things, there's a strong possibility that we might actually break above this area of supply. Okay, and what we want to do is we want to see this move up and come back down and show it as a support level and then rally on up. I don't think that's really what's going to happen, but you know, that's under kind of most circumstances, that's kind of what you would expect to see. Now, from an Elliott wave theory point of view, this particular wick here actually helps us understand that we may have actually now finished our structure here, right? It's a kind of a long-winded kind of ABC structure. And likewise, inside of these, there are also these three-wave moves, kind of dragged out a little bit, but you can kind of see them like this. And likewise in these other directions as well. So from an Elliott wave theory point of view, this is actually looking pretty good and looks like a bit of a B-wave move to the low side. Now, this yellow box area is a little bit thin. If we bring that down to that wick there and I drag it over this side, you can see that actually, yeah, we're coming right up into this lower area. In theory, it would actually be more better suited to these opens and close positions here. And as we come across, you can really see how well this area has really been a resistance and supply line for us. Okay, and so I'm going to leave it right on there. It's going to make sense with these positions, these ones are here, and where we are currently. Okay, now let's talk about the stochastic RSI. For those who do not know, the stochastic RSI is a momentum indicator, very similar to the relative strength index, but uses a stochastic approach. Now, with that being said, this helps us understand whether or not we are overbought or oversold, as it is super sensitive to price movement. Okay, so on the right hand side here, this is the Cheeky Crypto SRSI indicator. This is available only for our Patreon members. Okay, and on the right hand side here, we have a little table. This is a multi-time frame. This shows us the position on the 1 hour, 4 hour, 8 hour, daily, weekly, and monthly time frames for the stochastic RSI calculation. Okay, so we can see that we're oversold on the 1 hour chart. We're down here below the 20 level, and you can see that we're not overbought or oversold on any of these additional time frames. So we're going to have to shoot through those just to see exactly how they sit with the 4, 8, daily, weekly, and stuff like that. The monthly is oversold, and it's been there for quite some time. I'm not expecting too much there, but we are looking pretty progressive on the weekly, heading down towards the oversold area, but we're just not there yet. So we'll look at that as time kind of progresses. Now let's move over to that 4 hour. Now, the 4 hour chart has only just started to come down a little bit from the overbought area, which is why it's not showing as an overbought area here on our little table. Okay, and that's courtesy of this wick coming down has just brought us into this area lower than 80. On the 8 hour chart, we're progressing up, but we're not quite in the overbought area. Okay, these are interesting things. Now, the daily chart is actually progressing up, but we've still got plenty of room to grow, and we could quite easily come back down. Wouldn't be the first time we come out of this range only to reverse back down again. And you can see it from time and time again where we're up in the higher end area, we bounce around, and we can also bounce around at this lower end as well. So on here, yeah, it's not really conclusive of any decent kind of moves. So let's go back to the hourly and then just kind of, talk about what we've seen in terms of that stochastic, right? So the stochastic is our momentum indicator. We are overbought or just coming out of the overbought area on the 4 hour chart. The 8 hour, though, is indicating there's a little bit more left in the tank. the hourly chart is also indicating that there's a little bit more in the tank. So there's a little bit of ability to kind of pull back maybe on the 4-hour, but the 8-hour is looking pretty supportive of a move upwards, and the daily looks like it's supported or move upwards. The weekly is somewhere in the middle, doesn't really matter, but it could go up, could go down, doesn't really matter from that momentum indicator, and the monthly is looking pretty good as well. So if we start thinking about what's going on here, we've got a 4-hour chart that looks like it probably needs to come down a bit. We've got an 8-hour chart that looks like it wants to go up a bit. The daily could go either way, the weekly can go either way, and the monthly isn't going to move anytime soon. So essentially, if we were to think about these time frames and we start to think about what might actually occur here, well, I'm going to say that we need to move up on the hourly chart, and we need to move up on the 4-hour and the 8-hour, and then we get to consensus. All of those time frames would then tell us that we can correct down. Now, what Elliott wave theory is telling us is that we still have this theoretical C wave higher. Now we can go ahead and actually map this on, considering we've got these two areas of double top here. We can go ahead and just grab this low, move the fib over to this recent wick low here, and we can see that this could come in anywhere of this yellow box, but more typically a 1-to-1 would put it about 19,683. And again, we have this theoretical top here at 19,706. So for me, I'm going to say let's focus on the 618. This is a key fib level. This is basically 19,446. And as you can see, that wick coming to the downside, right, basically just means it wipes out those long positions so the price can move up. So the up is the expectation here. And as this video goes out in about 45 minutes, we'll obviously see what that looks like in terms of this particular candle, where it actually lands. The hardest part of this next move is going to be getting through this selling block just up here. Okay, so we want to push through, we need to confirm its support, and then we need to rally back up again. So don't think this is a straight line. I mean, it can, but I don't think it would be a straight line. I would look at this more as something that comes up, potentially even comes up into this kind of 50% area, maybe just this yellow box area here briefly, maybe something to do with these resistance lines, something like this, and then pulls back down, confirms this previous area of resistance to support, and then rallies on up one more time. And essentially what that would look like would be some kind of A, B, and C structure that sits inside this C wave. Okay, that would be what we'll be looking for. So essentially everything looks like it's kind of following plan. There's nothing unusual about it. It looks like it's doing pretty well. My expectations are 3 waves up to complete this C wave. And then once that is done, I would expect the 4-hour, the 8-hour, the daily, well, maybe not the daily, but the 1, 4, and 8-hour charts to kind of all be overbought, ready to see some kind of move to the downside. Which, because we've got 5 waves coming down, although we've got a little bit of a blip in the middle here, which puts a little bit of a spanner in the work, I'm kind of saying to myself, or thinking to myself, that maybe we'll see 5 coming down, okay? But we won't know what that will look like until we kind of get there. It could, of course, just be 3, and it could be all sorts of different kind of patterns. But, you know, we are looking at this 5-wave structure here, and I'm looking at trying to figure out whether or not we've just zigzagged here, we're moving up a little bit, and then we'll pull back down. Hard to say for certain, but we can, of course, you know, acknowledge that there's a lot of volatility within this, and my expectations are that we are potentially going to be pushing down in the price chart a lot lower for BTC. But, you know, basically at the moment, just consider it all liquidity grabbing. Throw this chart in here. You can see that the liquidity was wiped out down here. There's no more red lines. They're kind of faint red lines down here, for example, but now there's this liquidity that's up for grabs, okay? And as we kind of move this up into our yellow box area here, we can see there's a little bit, but there's not terribly too much. Okay, so these are the short positions that haven't closed out yet, and so I'd imagine that they will get liquidated as this price moves back up here. As I said this morning on the stream, and I'll link it in the description below if you're interested, the sentiment was very much going short, okay? People were willing to short the market. So as we kind of see here, we were up against this resistance. Those short-term shorters probably did well as long as they exited out. Looking at this liquidity here, though, it turns out they might not be. So grab out and liquidate any of the longs before going up, and then they can take it from there. So guys, I think I'm going to leave the video right there, kind of give you an idea that this weekend's been a bit of a sideways trade, and we might finally be heading up towards our kind of targets on the C wave. Very explosive end to the weekend, maybe. Alternatively, you know, it continues going sideways for a bit longer, but you know, we are kind of past that as far as I'm concerned here, and we should start to think about moves to the upside on the shorter time frame. I'm going to leave the video there. If you found it useful, hit the like button. I do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all the notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With all that said, done, out of the way, hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.